Hey guys, welcome back. We're going to be looking at the beginning of the Great Depression and what the causes and consequences of the Great Depression were for all of us. We're going to analyze the picture right here, which is going to look at Roosevelt and the beginning of all of his social security, social welfare programs that he enacted as a result of the Great Depression. 20th century culture, we had the influenza epidemic. You saw this somewhat at the end of World War I, and you're going to see it here. You have a disillusionment with government, society, and war because people got a little irritated with war because there are a lot of people that die, and this isn't the best thing in the world, so you're starting to have people be a little bit more critical of what's going on. You have some art, some of the famous guys who come around art, which are Pablo Picasso and Salvador Dali. They come up with some really neat pictures, and neat art techniques, which are surrealism and cubism. Very interesting guy. One of my favorite guys, Albert Einstein, who came up with the theory of relativity, which is a key deal, and motion is relative to observer, and energy equals E equals mc squared. If you guys don't know this one, I am so sorry. Einstein is sort of what we like to call the man in history. There is your Salvador Dali and Picasso. Dali came up with these little deals right here with your blended clocks, which is really cool. Those are some of my favorite paintings, and they look really awesome. The Roaring Twenties, Charlie Chaplin, slapstick comedy, film and pictures. People started going to the movies. People started becoming entertained, which is awesome. Jazz music comes around. Somewhat to the Harlem Renaissance, but came around in New Orleans and that area, and it was an influx of new music ideas. It becomes popular and expresses the prosperity of the time. Growth of consumerism. People started buying things on credit. Not always the best thing, but we still do that today with credit cards and margins. So they invested in the stock market as well. They invest all their money in the stock market, which you're going to see later on does not help them out. U.S. industries are going to be on point after the war because they're the only ones who didn't get bombed. All of Europe's totaled out. They're a mess. And so for us, we have businesses going left and right because we're producing stuff not only for our country, for Europe, and so people are spending money every time they get it because they think that they're going to just continue to have a growth of the industry. Women's rights, they start becoming an issue right here, and so you have the emergence of flapper girls, and these girls, instead of wearing the long dresses, they started wearing shorter dresses and what was worn typically at the time period. They started cutting their hair short, and they started going against what the traditional view is, which is, cook, clean in the kitchen. They started rebelling against that traditional image, and they started coming up with their own images about the way things and the way they felt like they should be perceived. So they started contrasting the viewpoints of what most people thought they should be like. Great Depression happens, and it all goes down here. The beginning of the Great Depression that you guys usually see is on Black Friday, which is October 29th, 1929, and this is when the stock market crashes. Farmers are going to fail. They couldn't basically sell the crops to markets, so they sit there, and one of the things that happened is they stopped planting all their deals because they wanted the price to match what it was worth, and in doing so they left a lot of land bare, and then the winds came up and they took everything out with them, and you have the creation of dust bowls. We have something called the Hawley-Smoot tariff, which is going to come around, so we put a tariff or a tax on incoming goods from other countries, and this isn't good because eventually this takes our Great Depression everywhere, and factories are going to close and people become unemployed because of the tariff act. People put tariffs on us, we put tariffs on the people. This isn't good. Stock prices are going to go up, and when the stock market crashes, people are going to lose millions of dollars. Banks are going to go bankrupt. People are going to sit there and they're not going to put their money in banks. When people don't put their money in banks, they'll take it out. They'll put it into different areas, and it's going to spread mainly due to the Hawley-Smoot tariff, which isn't on here, but that is where it's going to spread from. This is a time period because people started losing in banks. You may have heard from me and my grandmother that she put her money into bed rails. I was out to eat the other day with my fiance's family, and her family actually dug holes in the ground and buried their money so that the banks or anybody couldn't get it, because they didn't trust the banks, but they trusted their own selves. They would hide the money in the walls or stuff like this, and you still see where people find money today in some of these older homes from that time period where people have hid them. John Maynard Keynes said that depression was caused by a decline in the demand of goods. He said we should increase the demand by creating jobs and putting people back to work. So they're going to start building highways and public buildings, and the government finances jobs, even if it means they're going in debt, because the government has to get us back out of this bad economic situation. So he says instead of doing that, let's give people jobs. Government goes in debt in order to make sure that people can start buying goods again, and it'll help out everybody overall. So it causes the Great Depression, a stock market crash, international economic problems, high tariffs. This is a Hawley Smoot tariff again, and banking problems, which the Federal Reserve fails, and people start losing faith in banks, so they pull their money out of the banks and they put it back into their own purposes. Stock market before and after Black Tuesday, you see the highs, and then obviously you see the lows. If you've ever played a stock market game, you know that's not good when they drop that quickly and that high of a percentage. These are some of the pictures that you're going to see as a cause of the Great Depression. This woman right here is obvious. I think she was a mother of 4, and if I remember correctly, she was 32 years old. So you can see the worries and the concerns and how that aged people a little bit quicker, as stress is not a good thing for people. It created unstable governments around the world. Countries didn't know how to deal with depression, and half of the world population lived below the poverty line, which isn't good. The government is going to try a lot of different things to fix it. FDR comes up with this New Deal. This is social welfare. This is beginning of what people say is socialism, but these government jobs provide jobs and welfare to people. You have a bunch of work programs coming out, CCC, TVA, NRA. These sort of helped out doing things. The famous story I've always heard is you would give a guy a job, and even if he took a pile of dirt from one side of the road to the other side of the road, and then the next day took it back to the other side of the road, it would give him some sort of a job to do, and by giving somebody a job to do, they would feel better about themselves and also do better in the long run. Results of the New Deal is we spent a lot of money as a government to create all these jobs. We came out with the stock market and became regulated with the SEC. This is what we still have today, and financial aid was given to farms and businesses. We started giving Social Security out to those people who had old age and disabled, and it was basically a way of, we thought we could help each other out with it. One of the things that was built that is one of my favorite things as a result of FDR's New Deal is the Blue Ridge Parkway. This is a fantastic way, and that is the viaduct for those of you who have never been on the Blue Ridge Parkway. This is located probably about an hour outside of Blowing Rock. So he wanted this 3 R's, relief, recovery, and reform. I will tell you there are a lot of acronyms that come out of his New Deal. But they were sitting there, and he honestly just wanted to make sure that things got better for everyone. Nobody had money at the time period. So while you're sitting there putting his stuff together and he has all these acronyms that somewhat played out, you're going to see how that is carried over for that. You're going to see where people did not have money for anything at all. So you're basically just trying to throw something at it just to try to help it out and try to make sure that something works in the long term, and sometimes it didn't. France comes around and they started a Popular Front, which is reform programs to help workers. They work 40 hours a week, paid vacations and raises. Plan failed due to inflation, high prices. A lot of the stuff didn't work out well. Britain had high tariffs, increased taxes, regulated currency, and lowered interest rates because their economy depended on foreign trade, and foreign trade really wasn't the best thing in the world because of Europe, World War I, United States, Great Depression, and the high tariffs that we placed on their goods. So this is sort of where you're going to see it as the Great Depression. It was sort of a time period where everything started going wrong. It was a time period where money was scarce. People lost faith. They lost faith in the government. They lost faith in the banking system. They sort of lost faith in common man. FDR started trying to improve this with his New Deal, to try to sit there and help out the economy and help out the everyday man. A lot of acronyms, a lot of different programs, but it's basically the start of Social Security and welfare. And we will see the rest on the next slide.